Well, for more on this latest arrest, SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi joins us live this afternoon. Paseka, good afternoon to you. I'm sure that this is a relief for your organization, the arrest of this 11th person.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and thanks for having me. It is a relief indeed. If you may recall, I appealed to the suspect last week to hand herself over to the police. And this appeal was motivated by nothing but for the fact that she's innocent until proven otherwise. And it is only an appropriate forum, in this instance, the court, which can determine whether she's guilty or not. And it does not help anybody, herself, those around her, and the organization if she runs away from the police, because that may have an implication in terms of the bail application.
I suppose the most worrying thing now, Paseka, is that of these 11 people who have now been arrested in connection with this multi-million-rand fraud scheme, 8 of them are SASSA officials. What does that say about your internal controls?
It is very much concerning, Michelle, but I can just simply tell you that SASSA has got 4,000 officials. And out of 4,000 officials, 8 of them have been identified as alleged fraudsters, because now they are still suspects. So we think we cannot paint every staff member of SASSA who wakes up in the morning to make sure that they work and make sure that the community that they serve benefit from the good work which they do. So I think we may need to be cautious in terms of how we come to a particular conclusion. But it is, I must confirm and agree with you, that it's extremely concerning.
Has your team sat down, looked at what's unfolded that led to this 260 million rand fraud scheme, and come up with a set of holes that must surely exist in your checks and balances?
No, not true. I think the fraud management unit of SASSA came to ESCO and presented their plan. Hence, you see that there is progress with regard to this matter. I can tell you now, Michelle, that this is not the beginning, this is not the end. In actual fact, it is the beginning, but it's not the end. More is still coming. They've identified that they need to go all over the country and zoom into certain offices where they suspect that fraudulent activities are taking place. But secondly, Michelle, because I don't have a legal background, I become extremely uncomfortable, or I have to be extremely diplomatic in terms of how I present this particular progress, because tomorrow I don't want to say certain things here on TV and I'm then dragged to court, because, you know, South Africans, everything that you do, they run to court. So I need to make sure that the information which I give to the public through the newsroom, it is very much protected, and it makes sure that it does not backfire and we find ourselves wanting.
There are several government departments that are, I would say, prone to or primed for sort of fraudulent activities. The Home Affairs Department comes to mind. And the department and its ministers over the years have done these spot visits, these surprised, unannounced visits, just to get a sense of the operations of various Home Affairs offices. Is that something that the Social Security Agency does on a regular basis? And is it something that you reckon could be effective?
It could be effective, Michelle, and I think I can tell you now that we have the information at our disposal. We work hand in hand with the law enforcement agencies. Hence, I said earlier on, I think something big is going to happen. We are still going to make sure that we clean, and we make sure that when we clean, we don't leave any debt behind. But in terms of the visits to offices, in terms of making sure that we go into the system to make sure that we can see, or when we suspect that any fraudulent activity is taking place, we can then be able to share it with the police. We can then be able to allow the police to do their job, focus clearly, and make sure that we prevent. Because the intention here, Michelle, is to make sure that we prevent. We don't wait for people to mess up and then they get arrested. You need to make sure that the systems are such that are preventative. In fact, Michelle, I may have to mention the fact that when we wanted to roll out the biometric, we got a very serious pushback, but we had to convince the staff members that this is the only way to go. And if you can just give me 5 seconds to explain, you find that when this fraudulent activity is going to take place, an individual takes leave, and we give people passwords, shared. And a person, when a fraud is committed with their password, they would tell you that I was not at work. So you can't continue with the investigations. However, if I have used your finger, you can't say that you had left your finger at home, so it's not you, unless if your finger was cut.
Yeah, that seems like a foolproof way to do it. Paseka Letsatsi, thanks very much indeed for that update. We continue to track the story. The 11th suspect has now appeared in court. And as we know, these 10 other suspects are due back in court on the 1st of April.